welcome to all of you. Absolutely delighted to see so many people have joined us. And we're going to meet today somebody called Lorne, who is the founder of Flavours Holidays. Now, I need to tell you that I went on a Flavours holiday back in May. I was looking for something interesting and different to do. And I was thinking, oh, shall I do a spa break? What shall I do? And then Anna, my daughter, met Lorne at some event and they got chatting. And she found out all about Flavours Holiday. So I decided to go online and I booked the very last place on a painting holiday in Tuscany. And it appealed to me immediately. I just thought, oh, yes, I'd really love to be able to paint. And I love Tuscany, and I can't think of anything nicer than going with a group, possibly of women very similar to me. And so it proved. So I've got personal experience of this. I paid, it wasn't a freebie. And so today I'm absolutely delighted to be talking to Lorne about Flavours Holidays. And I'm going to start by a very simple question, Lorne, which is why and when did you start your business?
Yes. So thank you very much for asking me to come along. Actually, it's lovely to be here and it's nice to see everybody. So I started my business over 20 years ago. I was 25, didn't know a word of Italian, had a degree in politics, German and economics, so completely useless really. But I had this idea to take people to Italy, to take them to kind of off the beaten track locations, to stay in private villas and to learn to cook with local Italian cooks. And back in those days, I had a little brochure. I put a few adverts in the Guardian and the Independent, and I just expected the phone to ring off the hook and to be inundated with bookings. And in the first year, I got 8 guests. And the second year, I got 16. And the year after that, I got 32. So it was definitely no overnight success. It was very, very slow. And I discovered that whilst I knew Lazio, really nobody else really knew Lazio. And having started there, I was then offered a property in Puglia, and I moved down to Puglia. And again, 15, 20 years ago, nobody really had heard of Puglia. So I think after about the first 5 years, I had reached the magic turnover of about £65,000, which I thought was a fortune then. But it wasn't working particularly well. And then somebody said, well, why don't you take them to Tuscany? And I said, oh, I can't go to Tuscany. That's common. Everybody goes to Tuscany. I want to go somewhere different. But sure enough, as soon as I offered Tuscany and Sicily, the business started to take off. So it was a really good learning, actually, not to give people what they want and not what you think they want. That was a really good marketing 101. And because our concept is private villas, private chefs, we did lots of cooking, which in Italy, of course, is just such great food, great wine, great produce. But our accommodation also suited itself really well to other types of activity holidays. So that's when we added in painting and pilates and photography. So just a bit like Topsy, really, it just kind of grew and grew. So that's how it started. And now we take about 200 groups a year to Italy. We also take some groups to Spain and Morocco, and we do some stuff in Scotland as well. So it's been slow and steady, I think. It's been the growth of Flavours.
So a wide variety of holidays, different locations and so on. Where would you say your most popular destinations are, and what are the most popular holidays that you offer?
It's a bit like your children. You're just not allowed to have favourites. I would say for people who haven't been to Italy before, then usually Tuscany is always a good start. People that know Italy really well, they tend to book maybe Puglia or Sicily, a little bit more unusual. And we've always been really strong on cooking. So I would say probably about 60% of our holidays are cooking holidays. And then it's a bit of a split between painting, pilates, photography, and learning Italian. But most of our activities, they've been really over the years driven by guests coming back saying, I'd like to learn Italian, could you do that? Or, I'd like to do photography. So we've been very much led by our guests into sort of new products and new areas. And that's worked really, really well. About 40% of our guests come back every year. So we've got a bit like, your group of customers, we've got a real loyal following. And like you, we've been able to do quite a lot of things online over COVID and do some online classes and online experiences. So, but I think to answer your question, I would say cooking is definitely really popular, and Tuscany is a good first choice.
What impressed me when I went was the whole package really, because you get to stay in a really beautiful villa. You have a chef who cooks really beautiful food, and we were also accompanied by somebody who works within your team called Julie, who literally worked from the minute she got up, which was about 6 o'clock in the morning, until we all retired to bed, which could be very late. So she was absolutely brilliant. And I'd like to ask you how do you find these wonderful villas, and where do you know how do you find the chefs, because these people are incredibly important to the quality and the enjoyment of the holiday that you have.
Yeah, that's right. I think in the early days it was always word of mouth. So I had a sort of circle of Italian friends who usually had second houses, and most of the second houses came with a kind of in-house cook. So that's originally how it worked. And then lots of people used to contact us, and we sort of picked areas to find the villas. And again, I go out and I look at all the villas myself. So we would never use a villa that I haven't actually stayed in, I haven't seen. And we've got quite a clear, I remember years ago when I found a villa in Puglia, which is beautiful. It's been in Homes and Gardens magazine. It's truly stunning. But when I found it originally, a friend said, oh, you should, I think this would be good. And I got on a plane, went down to Puglia, and the lady said, I don't really know much about English cooks. All I've watched is the Two Fat Ladies. And she sort of expected one of the Two Fat Ladies to appear to sort of look at her villa. And as I say, in the early days, I would get on a plane and just go and look at something. Obviously, now we've got quite a clear spec of things that we have to have. Things like all the rooms are going to be en suite. It has to have a swimming pool. Depending on the activity, if it was cooking, for example, you have to make sure the kitchen's big enough. If it's Pilates, you've got to make sure, what's the outside space looking like? Is there shade if they want to do Pilates at 8:30 in the morning, or is everyone going to be sort of, burnt in the sun? So there's lots of kind of different criteria that we have. And in terms of the staff, again, a lot of the staff have been with us for a long time. We were very lucky during COVID. We managed to keep most of our teams in Italy. And the recruitment process, we do a lot of work in advance with them, because, at the end of the day, I always say, they're the face of Flavours. It's, of course, I had the idea and I'm important, but actually they have to deliver the holidays. So, we do quite a lot of initial sort of questions, trying to find out how they're going to react in different circumstances. And then do training with them as well. And it's not easy, but I think once you get the right team, we just really try hard to keep a hold of them, because it just makes it, it's all about the delivery of the experience. And particularly this year, when we obviously operated groups during COVID, but this year we're kind of back to 2019 levels. So for me this year, it's all about the delivery of the service. And even I was out in Puglia for 7 weeks myself, being with guests, looking after guests, it's really, really important. That element of the holiday. And I think when you're chatting about what's important to you, most of our guests come on their own, they're solo travelers, so it's really important who's there to look after them, that they can make them feel relaxed and that they know they're in safe hands. Because I think when you arrive somewhere, you are a bit nervous. It's something new, it's something different, and I think that welcome is always really crucial. It's one of the things I always say to new members of the team. The welcome, that makes or breaks a holiday. If you don't get the welcome right, then that can put you in the back foot for the rest of the week. So it's really crucial. So I'm glad to hear Julie. She's always armed with lots of Prosecco, Julie, so that usually works for arrivals.
Yeah, it's very popular on our course, that's for sure. And does the same apply to recruiting the teachers, because the teachers are really important as well. I mean, you're basically running courses where you have a teacher in charge of that, and the quality of that teaching and the kind of person that you have, again, makes a huge difference to the experience that you have. So how do you find those? Do you just go out there and advertise? Do you get them through recommendation? And how many have you got? Because did you say you were doing 200 courses?
Yeah, we have 200 groups. Yeah, that's right. So with the teachers, again, a lot of them have been with us before, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, so I've kind of had a bit of a learning curve as well. And generally, we get a lot of applications saying, "Oh yeah, I fancy teaching in Tuscany in the sunshine. That sounds like a great thing to do." But again, in the process that we go through, we really screen them. So we give them a lot of kind of I remember once one of the questions we used to give, for example, Pilates teachers was, you arrive at the villa, the chef's having a meltdown in the kitchen, the guests are sitting waiting for dinner, what do you do? And when they say things like, well, my insurance wouldn't cover me for working in the kitchen, for going into the kitchen, or when they say things like, I'd phone the office, then you know straight away they're not going to be a team player and they're not going to be problem solving. So there's lots of things like that we do with them. And we have an annual general meeting where we bring them all to Edinburgh for a weekend. And again, we look at the feedback. So, and if there's been maybe issues, we'll kind of talk about, you know, something that might have come up, just to get people thinking about it. And equally with the feedback, every individual member of staff gets every 6 months feedback update. So, you know, I can pull any of the teachers, any of the staff, any of the villas. I can look at the feedback and see, okay, you know, where are they in the percentage that they want to achieve? And again, they have to achieve for lessons, for example, they have to at least meet expectations, or if not, exceed expectations. So again, that's part of, I do like a monthly video call with the teachers, and again, questions like, you know, how do you know you're meeting your guests' expectations? So and just working with them to make sure it's just all these, I always say the devil's in the detail. So there is a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, and we really try hard to weed out the people who think, oh, it's going to be lovely, I'm just going to lie by the pool and teach for a few hours and, you know, have a holiday. Because at the end of the day, working for Flavours as a teacher, as a host, or, you know, it's not a holiday. It is actually work. It's lovely because you're in warm, sunny places and you meet some really interesting people, but it is work. And as you said, you know, Julie's on the go from morning till night. And you have to have people who've got the energy, who've got the passion. You know, our values at Flavours is we're passionate, we're authentic, we're inspiring. And we often use that as well when you're recruiting for somebody. So, you know, are they passionate, are they authentic, and are they inspiring? And if the answer is no, then they're just not for us. So yeah, it's there's a lot of work goes behind the scenes with it.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, that was obvious from my experience that the two critical people, well, they're actually the three critical people were the people looking after us. You know, the chef had to be really good at what he was doing and produce lovely food that we all enjoyed. Julie had to be there to be to organise the trips out and all that kind of thing. And then, and I can't remember, I called him Duncan.
You called him Duncan, yeah, Douglas.
I called him Duncan Douglas because I have a bit of a thing with names at the moment. I don't know. I was in this little hole in my brain where names drop through. So I say Duncan, Douglas, Duncan, you know, and I don't think I ever actually would remember his name. Anyway, he was charming. And the thing is that with him, so he was teaching us. So we get up in the morning. We'd start at about 10 o'clock, having had a very nice breakfast, which could be cooked or it could be fruit and cereal and stuff. And having had that, we would then sit at the table. He would give us some kind of instruction on some technique or whatever. And then he would be walking around available to encourage us, to help us, to support us. And so the thing is that his job didn't stop at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because he was still around. He ate meals with us. And then in the evening, he was there at the table. Again, he was still really, I mean, it's not exactly work that you're sitting with a group of people having dinner, but you are still having to represent Flavours, and you're having to play a particular role. So it's not exactly relaxing. So all of those, you know, all of those elements are so important. And I'm very interested to hear that you, how you monitor that, because it's incredibly important for your business. These people are representing you when it comes to it. I haven't said to people listening, if you've got any questions specific to your needs or interests, and you'd like to ask Lorne those questions, we're going to, in a little while, we'll break down into smaller groups, but after that, we'll come back together and you can, Emily will ask those questions on your behalf. So don't forget to put questions in if you've got any. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about something we discussed this morning when we were chatting through how this would be this afternoon, and it's to do with solo traveling. I think quite a lot of the women on this call and those who will subsequently watch the video will be like me. They're coming on their own for various reasons. I'm divorced, you might be widowed, you might just want to get away from your husband for a little while, and or it might be a subject that your husband isn't particularly interested in and you just want to do the cookery course or the Pilates course or whatever. So what do you think, what would you say to people who are lone travelers about the advantages of doing a holiday like Flavours?
I think it's about, you know, it's a big step. I think, you know, you have to understand somebody who's on their own, and particularly, as you say, they've been widowed or they're divorced, they've been used to traveling with somebody else. So it's a huge step for them to, you know, start picking up the phone, thinking about it, never mind actually getting on a plane on their own to go on holiday and meet essentially a bunch of strangers. So I think you really have to appreciate that. And I think obviously we do at Flavours, and again, we're a small team. We do pre-departure Zoom calls with them, so everyone gets a chance to meet others. I think you need to make sure that you choose your company that you're going to be well looked after, and people understand your situation. I think for solo travellers, pre-COVID, we always had, we would call them sort of the anxious travellers, and people, travelling on their own are a little bit anxious. Obviously, since COVID, people have had 2 years where they haven't really been travelling. And it is a big thing for them now to kind of get back there. But I think it's really important that they're supported. And again, with Flavours, it's good because, you're met at the airport. You've got an instant sort of group of people that you're with. And you can be reassured that they've got similar interests. They either love Italy, or they're keen on cooking, or, so that's really important. And I think as well with us, what you pay, once you've paid that set, so you're not going to have to be paying out money for, cups of tea or more drink or different excursions. So really you can just sit back and relax. And I think that's, when you think what a solo traveller needs to have a successful holiday, is to be in an environment where they feel safe, they are looked after, and they can just, start to relax. And I see it, as I say, I was in Puglia for 7 weeks. I met a lot of our groups who were out there the first half of the season, and you could kind of see everyone arrives, and it's been quite stressful, and it's, it's the first time they've travelled, and then just gradually, by the Tuesday, by the Wednesday, you can really see them start to relax, and they've met other people, and they've had some, fun evenings, good conversation, they've maybe, had a bit too much to drink sometimes, but they've just had fun, and then they get, you can see by the end of the holiday, they've got so much out of it, and it's not just to improve their painting or their pilates. They've had that really lovely sort of social experience. They've been, with other people, and they just kind of remember, why we go traveling really, and the benefits of going on holiday. And I think that's I'm not sure that answers your question, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing to reiterate, really. My experience of my Flavours holiday was that my flight was at 6 o'clock in the morning from Gatwick. So to be a 6 o'clock flight, you have to be there 2 hours before. That's 4 o'clock. And then I had to get there, which takes about an hour from here. So that's 3 o'clock. So I didn't go to bed. I decided I would stay up and get quite an early taxi, because I always have to add extra time on. I'm early rather than late. And I was a long time at Gatwick, and then the flight. And so I was pretty tired by the time I landed into Pisa. But what was lovely then, really lovely, it was a beautiful morning. It was very early. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. And in fact, earlier, that 8 o'clock in the morning. And I walked through, and immediately there was a representative there from Flavours, which was lovely. And then we went into the cafe area, because we had to wait for all the other flights that were landing from places like Birmingham, Manchester, and so on. And I got to sit and chat to a lot of lovely women who were there doing other holidays. So we'd come and say, oh, your Flavours, which holiday are you doing? Oh, I'm doing the language holiday. Oh, I'm doing the cooking holiday, and so on. So I sat in a very comfortable place for a couple of hours and chatting away. And I think that was nice, because it eased me into the whole thing. It was very welcoming. It was very friendly. And yes, it was a bit of a pain in the backside to have to get such an early flight and wait, but it started it very positively for me. And then we were collected by minibus. I think there were 2 holidays on our minibus, because we were in villas quite close to each other. And just a word on my group as well, which again, you can't really legislate for the group, can you? You can't know what this group is going to be like, but you are going to, you assume, I suppose, that they're going to be mostly older women. On our, we had a married couple, and we had other people who were lone travelers like me. 4 of them knew each other from other holidays. They were repeat
vendors.
Yeah. And they were a little bit cliquey to begin with, those 4. They sort of stuck together and ate together and stuff. But gradually, during the week, it broke down. That sort of cliquiness broke down. And the 8 of us then became a very good, strong group. And they were delightful people, I have to say, really delightful people. And the one man on the group, who was the husband of somebody who wasn't painting, but he was a brilliant painter, was such a nice guy, and he really coped well considering he was in a group with 7 other women. But it was excellent, and I have to say that I did come back thinking immediately I want to do that again. So
and I think and I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I would say when most of the questions you always get, the concerns before, is what's everybody else going to be like? And I think that, and I always say, well, they're just like they're just like normal. It's interesting. People often get concerned about what everyone else is going to be like. And I always say, I think on these kind of group holidays, what makes them successful is if you just, you arrive with an open mind and just willing to kind of, to meet new people and just to kind of go with the flow. And I think I said to you earlier, I suspect the people who've been before, and that clickiness, I'm sure they didn't really mean to be clicky. It's just, I think everyone's a little bit nervous and a little bit anxious. And when you already know people, I think it's just a kind of natural instinct that you kind of go with them. But I think, as you see, by the end of the week, everyone was good, was sort of friendly, and so much of it is it's not just the activity, it is that social, the meeting everybody else, and just getting to know new people, which is just interesting because, gosh, we've all been stuck at home for such a long time. It's just nice to see other people and hear other people's stories, and there's often a lot of chat about what's happening in people's lives and where they're at, and it's always really interesting.
Absolutely. And we were talking this morning, and I think it's an important thing to draw out, the whole issue about confidence. Yeah. So the impact that COVID has had on people's confidence to go abroad, confidence to travel anywhere, let alone abroad, and then the confidence to actually be in social groups again, because having been isolated and on your own for a while, I mean, that was part of the huge pleasure for me to be back in these, in a proper group like that. But just say something a little bit about that, because I think it's important. And the other thing that you've noticed about people coming on the holiday since lockdown, we talked about that.
I think what's the challenge has been is that particularly for people who are on their own, for solo travelers or solo people, it's often easier, to say, but because of COVID, it's often been, an excuse not to do something. Well, I'm not allowed to go out, I shouldn't go out, I'll stay in. And I think that kind of not being bothered and just, it's easier not to do it. And I think that often comes across, as soon as people think about it. And then there's that kind of easier not to bother. And that's, I think, just such a shame, because I think you forget that kind of, once you've been on holiday again. I used to, before COVID, particularly people who hadn't travelled before on their own, they may have been widowed. I used to always say to them, look, it's really important you get that first holiday under your belt as a solo traveller, because once you've got that, you essentially get your freedom back and you get your confidence back. Because if you don't do it, then actually, you risk, you miss so much. And I think particularly after everything, it's really important, whether it's on a Flavours holiday or any kind of holiday, it's really important to kind of, go somewhere and just get a change of scene and get your confidence back, because there's so many things to do and so many things to explore. It would be a shame, COVID's taken so much of our freedom. It would be a shame if it takes any more away. And I think what I have noticed from a lot of our guests who, pre-COVID, they were quite fit and active, and obviously they've been at home, that's what they were told to do, not to be out and about, not only exercise for an hour a day, but it's left them not as fit as they were, and that for me is a great shame, because when you get to a certain point in life, my mother's a case in point, once you lose your fitness, once you lose your flexibility, once you lose your confidence, you really have to make an effort. No one's going to come and knock on your door and say, let's go. It has to come from you. And I think it's so much harder now for people to do that, because after everything that they've been through. And I think also, I was chatting to you earlier, the media, the messages, when you think, well, I might want to go on holiday, but then you read about all the flight delays, you go, oh, actually, I'm not going to bother. And it's, you're being constantly sort of given these messages, which I'm sure, partly is correct, but it's just to kind of, get the confidence just to go and just to remember what it's like to be on holiday, and the new places, new things, new food, new people, and how you feel, as you say, when you come back, you're renewed and refreshed. So it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a really safe and I think a really easy way for you to dip your toe back into to going somewhere, because it is safe. It's organized. You don't really have to think too much about anything once you've decided to go and you've booked your flight. So for me anyway, mine was a first foray into doing something different, having sold my house in France last year. And I just thought, the whole world has opened up to me, but what am I going to do? And I'm traveling alone. So I decided to dip my toe in with this particular holiday. And I'm so glad I did, because it was such a good way for me to become more confident about solo traveling, meeting new people, and also learning a new skill, which is incredibly important. I'm going to show you one of my paintings in a minute.
And I think as well, and I think as well, things like painting, or it's, for me, it's what a luxury to basically have nothing else to do all day apart from sit and paint. How often in life, if you have got a free day, you're thinking, I've got this to do and I've got that to do, but actually you've got a whole week just to literally, all you have to focus on is painting. And I think it's great. And also something like Pilates as well. The benefit of Pilates is that you do the exercise, you do Pilates twice a day, you get your information to take back, but you've got a basis to then actually improve when you get home. So I think any kind of holiday where you're learning something or doing something, it's kind of like a double whammy. You get the holiday, but you also get the learning and the skill that actually you can take forward and actually really benefit from. So it's a really interesting idea for holiday. And as I say, obviously, Flavours, I'd be delighted if you joined us, but I just think it's great to encourage people just to just look at other holidays and other holiday options, and get back out there and travel.
Absolutely. And again, you mentioned this morning. Tell us a little bit about some thoughts you have about a new holiday, possibly to do with fitness around for older women. What's that?
Yeah, that's right. I was saying earlier, again, a lot of, we know a lot of our guests, and I noticed particularly after lockdown, when we took guests on holidays, our itinerary, for example, would always include, a day somewhere, like a day in Florence or a day in Seville, and do a little walking tour. And we noticed very quickly that after COVID, a lot of the guests whereas before they could manage, a day wandering around Seville or whatever, but actually after COVID, they just had lost their fitness. And I just feel personally just slightly frustrated and just, annoyed that particularly the older generation, they did follow the rules, they did do what they were told, and they didn't go out and about. And the consequence has been that now, post-COVID, they aren't as fit, they aren't as mobile, they've lost their flexibility. And I just think, it's not that I'm suggesting we offer boot camps, but I do think some kind of holiday or something where you can do some fitness, some stretching, some working on core strength, all the things that you need to do to support you in later life. And again, I'm not suggesting it's going to be like dieting or detoxing, but I think there must be something. I haven't quite worked out what you'd call it or exactly what it is, but just something to get people moving again. And just because you're investing in your health, and I think if obviously you're a great example of doing fitness and doing all the things that you do, and actually it's going to impact the rest of your life ultimately.
Well, I heard you this morning. I was listening to the Michael Mosley just one thing, and you were on it.
That's right.
From you, and I was listening to the one about dance, and it was Lorne, who runs a travel company in Edinburgh, and she's going to try dancing for 10 minutes a day. So I think if you put on some kind of dancercise type thing, that would be incredibly popular. I'd sign up for that for sure, because I think doing things to music, and I listened to that this morning, the Michael Mosley thing, and I found something on YouTube, and I did 15 minutes of dancing to this YouTube exercise thing, and I nearly killed myself, but it was really good.
I think dancing is great, actually. Yeah, I know, Michael, I can't remember how I got approached to do that podcast, but somebody approached me anyway, and I was like, yeah, and they phoned up and they said, well, it's just one thing, and again, I quite like his approach, Michael Mosley, because it is just one thing for your health. I had done earlier, I'd listened to it, it's just something about having a cold shower in the morning, and I do actually turn the shower to cold and stand there and scream for 30 seconds every morning. And I was quite keen to be involved with them, and they said, well, you can do a couple of things for your health. You could eat beetroot, and there was something else in dancing. I was like, well, I'm definitely not eating beetroot, but I wouldn't mind dancing. And it was really good in the morning to do it. In fact, funny enough, actually yesterday I was kind of dancing away, and I've been trying to I don't know about you, but I find in the morning, if I'm not careful, you can just get up and you start looking at your phone, and your day's gone. So I'm trying really hard to not do that. And something like putting on music or not putting on Radio 4 and getting really annoyed with it. is a better start to the day. So yeah, and it's free. I thought the dancing was really good. The only thing was, when I did it for the week, it was just a little bit awkward because my son was at school, my husband was kind of floating about, and I was kind of trying to dance and make coffee, and it was like, oh, I feel like an idiot. And I also thought, dancing, I realized it's something sociable, isn't it? You really, you go to a club. Well, I don't go to a club anymore, but you go to dance with other people. So I think, yeah, there's definitely a sociable aspect. And I think, and yeah, in terms of flavors, our guests are, I would say, mainly sort of 55 plus. And increasingly older. We had a 90-year-old last year who came from California all the way to Sicily to paint for a week. And I think, age is just a number, and very often you see in a sheet somebody's 85 or 90 or whatever, and actually it doesn't mean anything now because people can be extremely fit. But I think, yeah, our age group, as I say, is over sort of 55 in general, and I do think there's some kind of type of holiday where it is kind of fitness, dancing. Yeah, there's something there. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but yeah, it's still an idea.
Well, I'll wait to see that.
Yeah.
Great insight, what you put together. Emily, have you got some questions there?
I have. So this one's for Lorne. What media do your painting courses use? Do you supply the materials, or do the guests need to bring everything with them?
Yeah, so generally they do watercolors, and they can do acrylics as well. They tend not to do oils because you can't get them dry quickly enough. Everyone gets their own sketchbook, and we've got paper and boards and easels, but generally most people have paints anyway and bring their own, and then, or if they haven't, there's a really small list of things that they need to bring with them. So yeah,
perfect.
If I answer that, I just bought a pack. I went and bought a set of, I think, 12 watercolors and some brushes, but they packed very small. I was able to pack into a very, very small area. So yeah, it's good.
And how many guests on average attend each course?
Probably between about 7 and 9 usually. So yes, so not too small, but not too big either, number wise.
And does your company cater for guests with specific dietary requirements?
Yes, we get lots of different dietary requirements. So yeah, celiacs, gluten-free, vegetarians, vegans, pescatarians. Yeah, everyone gets, yeah, we deal with any kind of dietary requirement. And I've not had anybody come back yet saying they're starved on a Flavours holiday. If anything, they're always complaining they've had too much to eat. So yeah, that's not a problem.
And Joan asks, are all the holidays 1 week, or are they ever longer?
We have got some short, we have got some short breaks. Interestingly, we do some sort of short cooking breaks in Tuscany, kind of 4 days, 3 nights, kind of, in April, May, September, October. But I think very often people just feel that if you're going to go for a week, it's just better value for money, really, by the time, particularly just now with getting on flights and things like that. The Scottish breaks that we do, that we launched kind of during COVID, sort of staycations, they're 5 days, 4 nights, and we've got some quite nice weekends in Edinburgh, actually, just before Christmas, like festive fling ones, where they come up to Edinburgh and do Christmas markets, and they do some Christmas crafts and go to the ballet and do things like that. So that they're 4 days, 3 nights. So yeah, options. But generally it's a week. It's generally Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday.
Perfect. And how do you deal with different levels of ability for the activities?
The teachers are really well versed with that. I would say if it's something like language, then obviously the guests speak to the teacher before they go on the holiday. So the teacher's got a really good idea of who's coming on the holiday. And usually they manage to teach the whole group together. And if they wouldn't, they'd maybe split them up to maybe beginners and post-beginners. And again, with Pilates, things like that, the teachers tend to sort of take them back to basics just to make sure that everyone knows all the basic moves, just double check. And then as the week progresses, they'll challenge them and add more things on. And again, with the painting, a bit like Tricia's experience, the teachers can kind of cope with beginners. And because there's a kind of focused lesson for everybody, and then for the rest of the day, the teacher can kind of float around everybody. I think, yeah, it usually works well.
Yeah, in my experience of that was, I was pretty much absolute beginner. There was one other person who was also an absolute beginner. We had 2 who were very competent. The man who was the husband of actually his wife didn't paint. She went off and did exercise and stuff. He hired her an electric bike, and she would go off and come back and tell us about her exploits. And then 2 who were sort of intermediate, I suppose you would say. No, 3 who were intermediate. So, but Duncan Douglas, Douglas, he was very good at making sure we were all happy and that we were kept. He would come in. I would sort of sit there and say, "Look, I don't know what I'm doing here. This is going wrong. I'm really getting frustrated with this," and so on. He'd say, "Okay, well, have a go at this. Try this," and then he would go off and help somebody else, but come back and then just check that I was all right and stuff. So he was always available. And I didn't feel that the different the different levels of people's competence was a problem for me.
Yeah, and I think when you say you're a complete beginner, I think the reality is, you painted at school. You had some experience, presumably.
I'd never painted watercolour before. I sort of before I started Look Fabulous Forever, I dabbled a little bit in some acrylics. I went and bought myself some acrylic paints and did a few things, but I've never seen myself as particularly artistic. I'd never painted watercolour before, and that was quite a significant challenge. I've actually got, I'm going to show you this. So this is one of my paintings. Get it up. And I would say that my trick for making sure that something looks like a Tuscan landscape is just put a cypress tree in it.
Exactly, that's right.
Completely, any picture, actually. You could go look out of the window, paint what you see in the English countryside, and just put a couple of Italian cypresses in, and immediately transforms it into an Italian picture.
Right. I remember once we had a lovely older guest, and he had been in the war, and he was once in Tuscany, busy sort of painting Tuscany, and all of a sudden he put some parachutists in the picture because that was what he used to reference to the war. So I think there's a lot of artistic license can be taken when you're drawing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
Any more, Emily?
Yeah, we've just got a few more. We've also got how many people stay in a villa, and are they mainly female?
Yes, so everyone's in a private villa. All the villas have between 7, 8 or 9 ensuite rooms. So it just depends on the makeup of the group. But as I say, usually you might get a couple, you might get 2 friends that are sharing, but most people are on their own. So yeah, 7 to 9 guests in the villa, and you stay there. It's your home from home for the week, basically. And, kitchen and swimming pool and your own chef and things like that. And the other question, I think I forgot, sorry.
Are they mainly female people that you have on your holiday?
Yes, I know, everyone often asks that. And what it is, I think I said earlier, it's just the guest that I was on the call with, I think mainly women are just much more adventurous, aren't they, a bit more confident. I think single men tend perhaps to, I don't know, go and do golf or something. So we do get some men, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I would say it's mainly women, with maybe 1 or 2 men coming along. So yeah.
Great, thank you. And Joan asks, when does the booking start for 2023?
So at the moment, so what we have, it's a bit like with Tricia, we have our own kind of private group of guests who, once you've travelled with Flavours, you become part of the Amici Club. So they've been given dates for 2023 at the moment, and they've kind of got their first pick. And then we're going to release the dates to everybody else probably the first week in August for next year. So yeah, but essentially for next year, it just mirrors really more or less what we've got on offer this year and similar holidays. So yeah.
Great. And are the language courses for beginners?
Yes, again, I think no one's a complete beginner. Probably they've done a little bit before, but they can take complete beginners. I would always say, any of these things before you come on one of our holidays, it would be worthwhile, if you are thinking about it, then, do a couple of lessons beforehand, either find somebody, or we do online classes as well. So if you're thinking about, language or pilates or whatever, then, it's a big investment the week. So it'd be good to maybe just do an online class beforehand and just see if you like it. Would be an idea. But yeah, we have people who, haven't done it before and they are complete beginners. So yeah, definitely, it's not a problem.
Perfect. And we've just got 2 more. We've got a lot of questions today. Esme asks, what's a typical day? How much tuition versus how much free time? And are there any other activities?
So most days depends what you're doing. So if you're doing, if I'll do cooking, maybe Trish, you wanted to do painting because you've done painting. You would be, and if you're cooking, for example, you'd be getting up, having breakfast and starting to cook at about 10:30 in the morning. And what you prepare in the morning for the cooking lesson, that formed your lunch. So fingers crossed you're a good cook because you got some food. And then in the afternoon, if you're on a cooking holiday, you might go off to do a wine tasting visit, or you might do some sightseeing in a local town and go out for dinner. usually also have a full day on a week-long holiday where you go out and explore the local area. So if you're in Puglia, for example, you would go up to Lecce and have a day in Lecce and have lunch. So it's quite a nice balance between activities and some free time. And we always say, you know, it's your holiday at the end of the day. If you don't want to go and do something and you just want to relax, lie by the pool, then that's up to you as well. So generally with the cooking, there's 5 cooking lessons. Painting, perhaps Tricia can fill us in her day. Pilates, there's 10 lessons. So yeah, it's a good balance for activities and sort of free time.
Yeah, so my experience was we'd start about 10:30 in the morning. I was bitten by quite a strong painting bug while I was there, got quite enthusiastic about it. So I would often carry on. So we'd break for lunch at about 1:30 and then probably have about an hour and a half for lunch. And then I would carry on after lunch. Douglas Duncan was around. It's Douglas. Douglas was around and he would be there, but he wasn't actually officially teaching, I think, in the afternoon, but he would still be there and available if I wanted him. And a lot of people would go off to the swimming pool after lunch, and I would sit and paint. Others would. Sometimes I was painting till 6 o'clock in the evening. It was because I was really enthusiastic about doing it. We had one full day out to San Gimignano. Can't say the word. And then there was a wine tasting. I elected not to go on the wine tasting because I don't drink. And I felt a little bit antisocial when I didn't do that. And I thought, well, actually, I don't feel like going out now. I'd much rather stay here and have a bit of a rest and be on my own, have a bit of downtime, you know, with people all week. And so it's a perfect balance, really. A perfect balance of activity, time spent. You can spend as much as you want to or not. And then, I mean, for instance, there was one person on our course, I think she produced 2 pictures during the week, and she was perfectly happy to do it at a very low level of activity, but she loved being by the pool and she loved being with people and chatting and stuff. So that's what she got from the week. So it's very relaxed, it's very flexible, and they were nice trips out. So we were taken in a minibus and they were very pleasant and enjoyable. We had lovely lunch, and then we went out one evening and had a very nice dinner in is it Lecce?
You go to Volterra. No, Volterra.
Volterra. I've just come back from Lecce and I'm getting confused. Yeah, nice.
Cool, thank you very much. And then the one last question is just, are the holidays booked as a package, or do you have to book your own flights?
Yeah, no, we generally people have to book their own flights, but we will tell you the flights to book and we'll advise you on the flights. So yeah, we're there to give you a helping hand with that. It's just that with the flights, people want to travel from different airports, and we get some Americans and we get people from Australia as well. So yeah, it's just easier if people book their own flights, but we're more than happy to help.
Great, thank you very much for answering all of those.
Yeah, great, thank you for all the questions, it's great.
Absolutely. So I just round this up and say I really enjoyed my Flavours Holidays. As you can probably guess, it's inspired a very a new passion for me. I've carried on painting. I've just come back from a 3-week holiday in Lerici, which is on the Ligurian. So you land into Pisa and you go up to the coast, and I took my painting stuff and painted there, had a lovely, lovely time. And I'm finding now I fit some painting into my week, not every day, but quite a few days. And I absolutely love it. I really do. I find it very relaxing. And it was sparked by this holiday. So I can thoroughly recommend it if you want to try something new. And it's really good for us. So thank you, Lorne. That was wonderful. Really interesting to talk to you. I hope you've all been inspired by that. And thanks all for coming along and listening. And bye-bye, everybody. Nice to see you. Bye-bye.